Hi guys. Okay, so in my video you got to see my injection certification in the process. So in a nutshell, so I am considered an ARNP. I am a CRNA certified registered nurse anesthetist, but I am, they call us mid-levels. We are ARNPs, so technically a nurse practitioner level education. So we are, every state's gonna be different. So I'm in Indiana. So the state of Indiana recognizes me as a nurse practitioner and ARNP who can prescribe medications, can give services, can give Botox injections. I just have to have a collaborating physician. So I'm going to do a whole video on the whole process because this is one thing that was frustrating to me when I finally got my certification and I got ready to go. There was like very few people who were really willing to like give you those steps, which I want to give my girl, and I'm gonna go into her in my next video and really talk about her a lot. But just Mary, she really helped me out a ton when it just came to like giving me tips and how to get my business going. So I'm gonna do a whole video on the steps needed to start your concierge mobile Botox business. And I'm hoping down the road it'll turn into some more stuff as well. And I'll talk about that later. But I just went over, so I did a Q&A before I went and got my certification. I did a Q&A and I let you guys just ask me a bunch of questions, things you wanted me to cover to kind of learn about when I was there. So we're gonna cover some of that stuff today. So I've got them all right here. I'm just gonna read through some of them and we'll kind of touch base on some of them. So one question was, should men get Botox? Absolutely. Like, you'd actually be really surprised with how many men get Botox. It's not necessarily we call it like a non-invasive cosmetic procedure, meaning like you're not doing a facelift, you're not doing like crazy procedures. It just kind of helps balance things out. So absolutely, if you're a man and you want to get Botox, no judgment, do it. Next question, can you obtain your own prescription to do your own injections? And how does that work? So kind of like I was saying, as an ARNP in the state of Indiana, I have prescribing license. I have prescribing powers. I can prescribe Botox to my patient, injections, fillers, and then my collaborating physician, he is, by my state's law, has to review 5 to 10% of my charts to assure that he agrees with my anesthetic plan, with my plan for Botox, essentially. So yes. Next question. What's the certification look like for CRNAs? Same as a nurse practitioner. So I already have my advanced advanced education. So all I really need is a day certification to get my basic Botox license. Now let me tell you guys something. Getting your basic injector license does not mean you're gonna be a pro. Like, I still feel like I feel equipped to do the basic injections. But let me tell you, I'm already planning to go train with someone to do lips. I don't want to do lips until like I've highly trained in it. And there's certain things like some of the lower face anatomy is so intricate, you really need to know what you're doing. So I'm going to do some advanced training before I continue on and do some more advanced stuff. So let's see. Is this your first time doing any type of aesthetic training? Yeah. Very first time. I was so excited. I've always been interested in the aesthetic world. Some of my good girlfriends are injectors. I've let them practice on me in the past and have fun with that. So first time, and I'm very excited. Okay, this question is, can you go right into aesthetic training from nursing school? That's my ultimate dream job. I believe so, and I'm not gonna lie, I have not researched the injector, the nurse injector path, like to just have your bachelor's of nursing, or I don't know if you have to have your bachelor's of associates, but just to be be an RN and be an injector. I know you can do it. I am just not for sure of the path. So do some research, reach out. I know social media has a lot of nurse injectors that you could reach out and pick their brains for that. So, but you can totally do it for sure. Can you do it on yourself was another question. Yeah, so at first I didn't know about this, but then as you get into the aesthetic world, you watch other like highly educated people do it, and they totally do it on themselves. Obviously, you have to pick and choose what you're going to do on yourself, but yeah, basic stuff. And I actually just recorded a video today of doing like an eyebrow lift and then a little lip flip. So I will share that sometime soon. Okay, next question is, what made you choose this company to train with? I'm a CRNA too, and I want to learn. So guys, let me be honest. There are some like really intensive training programs out there. There was one, and I had multiple people like They were surprised. Like, we're surprised you didn't use this whole training. It's like this, and it looks like a great training program. But I knew I just wanted my basics to get started. And then I knew I wanted to go train more in depth as I went going. It was like I wanted a smaller fire hose to learn the basics, and then I wanted to go drink off more fire hoses. So Metaesthetics was a great resource. I kind of did some research on them. They had a great reputation among other injectors, and the injectors that do the training are very experienced injectors. So I was very comfortable using them. They had a lot of really good locations. So I loved the variety of locations. They got you hands-on training. That's one thing I like. There's these trainings you can do like via Zoom and all this stuff. I'm like, I wanted hands-on stuff. And the injector that did it was super knowledgeable, knew what she was doing, started her own practice. So I loved that also. Yeah, and they seemed like really kind people. I chatted with them a little bit back and forth, and they seemed like a good option. So that's why I chose them. But there are a lot of really good options, and honestly, like a while ago, I reached out to some injectors, and they were like, honestly, basic training, just get your training, just get your certification, and then start learning a lot by hands-on. So it was good. Next question, let's see. Botox while breastfeeding. Okay, so I'm going to make a very clear disclaimer. This is not medical advice. This is my own personal opinion. Even though I am a medical provider, I am not, I am learning through this whole process. So, but let me just give you guys my perspective on all this. So, Botox while breastfeeding. Why don't you get Botox while you're pregnant? Well, frankly, they haven't researched it. Why don't you get Botox while you're breastfeeding? Frankly, they haven't researched it. So you ask any injector, can I get Botox while I'm pregnant? No. Why? Just because the FDA says not to. Why? They haven't researched it. Well, theoretically, could it be dangerous to my baby? Probably not. Well, what do you mean probably not? Well, if you learn the physiology of how the mechanism of action of how Botox works, it stays local to these muscles that you inject. It can spread a little bit, but it is not going systemically. Now, you can ingest Botox and it could do some serious damage. Like we're talking about injection, not ingestion. So like if you were to ingest Botox, sure, like it could get into your system and it could cross the placenta and it could reach your baby. And then when you're breastfeeding, if you ingest Botox and you're breastfeeding, theoretically, it could get to your baby. But like we are doing injections, we're doing localized injections. So my answer is no, you can't, but not for a good reason. It's just because they haven't researched it. They don't know why. And the answer is no. So liability reasons, we're not going to inject you if you're pregnant or if you're breastfeeding. But is it a good reason? No, I've not read any. Well, they won't do any studies because it's not ethical. So unfortunately, the correct answer is no. My like just inquiring brain says why. Like if I'm breastfeeding and I'm not ingesting it, I'm just getting it injected. Can you really like tell me like there's any chance that it could reach my kid? Probably not, but they aren't going to research it. I don't like dumb answers, and that's kind of a dumb answer to me. Sorry. Can they be used to prevent wrinkles, or is it better to get them once you get wrinkles? So it was so funny because I had a consult with a girl, and she was like, I already have like some of these lines, and they're like permanent. It's not like they're lines you get when you make an expression. They're like there. So there's like a big, deep physiological reason for how your collagen breaks down. You have your dermis and epidermis, and over time, those constant movements with your muscles, they kind of break down your collagen, and it's more of just like a divot. So there is going to be a point, and you see it a lot, and as women age, they get this deep divot here, and then look at like a deep divot here. And there does become a point where if you want that divot to go away, you will probably need filler in that area rather than Botox. Now, I say that, and if you do have just a slight divot with your wrinkles, more than likely Botox is going to make that go away. If you just have like a little crease at rest, Botox, like you might not think you're contracting your muscles, but you are a little bit. And just that relaxation helps that go away. It really smooths things out. So you can do it in response to some wrinkles, but what is really encouraged and suggested is to do preventative Botox. And so what that means is you start at a younger age. The recommended age, some people give you a definite age, like 22 to 28 is when you should start, but it really depends on you and your anatomy. But, a preventative Botox, you do a lot less. They call it baby tox. And you just do small amounts. And what you're doing is you're just making those muscles not be able to be as expressive. So what that means, it's not going to cause as many wrinkles down the road from overuse of those muscles. Essentially, like if you look at my forehead, I have Botox in my forehead from the certification. Like I can still do expression and move my forehead around, but they're just so much smoother than they were. Like, so it's like my muscles are still moving. They're just not as moving. And you can freeze it. You can totally freeze it. But I like a little bit of expression. So, okay, let's see. How long is the process to get trained and certified? A day. It was literally a day. I did all my didactic, in the morning, and then we had a lunch break, and then we did all of our hands-on in the afternoon. It's great. I know some programs you can also do advanced, and that was like a whole additional day, and I just wanted the basics. So just a day with metastatics. Okay, Botox versus Dysport or the other kind, pros versus cons, difference, etc. So I, in my practice, have started out with just Botox. I absolutely plan to open an account with Dysport and start offering that. The biggest benefits you'll hear people talk about, it's faster onset. Technically, it's a little cheaper, but with the amount you end up using, it's close to being a wash. Doesn't last as long, but in my opinion, the biggest benefit that I see of it is being able to have a variety of options, because some women, over time, when you use Botox for a long period of time, your body actually gets used to it a little bit. And you'll notice, you'll be like, man, my injector just sucked this time because my Botox only lasted 2 months instead of last time when it lasted 4 months or 5 months or whatever. It's actually your body kind of gets used to the brand Botox after a while, and you switching to Dysport, actually it can be really beneficial, and it's just a drug that your body isn't resistant to. Now, I'm not quite sure. I'll have to read the studies on if like you can go back to Botox if your body unlearns that resistance to it. But the great thing about it is you have another option if you're getting a little resistant to the Botox. Why metastatics instead of other training programs? I kind of touched on that. It just seemed like a great reputable option. So thank you to Metastatics for being awesome. Let's see. Are there any long-term side effects to Botox greater than 5 to 10 years? Okay, so injection? No. Ingestion? Yes. It's so funny because I was telling my mom about this. I was like, Mom, which I adore my mom. My mom is like your hardest working. She had 11 kids. She was a stay-at-home mom. She is like your salt of the earth, amazing woman, like such a godly woman. And I was like, oh, I hope my mom doesn't judge me so bad when I tell her I'm gonna give Botox to people, And my mom is funny. She's like, oh, whatever. And I'm like, you want me to practice on you? And she's like, oh, too late for some of these wrinkles. But she asked me, she's like, well, what even is Botox? And so I was telling her, Botox is a purified protein derived from that scary word that we've all heard, the botulism, that bad bacteria. And I'm like, okay, but here's the thing. You have to understand, like, this is why it's super good, guys, in life, to make sure you know what someone's talking about. And like, I've even heard people say, you can't get Botox. That could have some seriously bad side effects. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? Because if you're ingesting it, sure, like you're gonna go nuts. Like, yeah, that could be a catastrophe. That could be so devastating. But like injection wise, actually, if your injector is injecting it properly and in the intended term, meaning not ingested or not something really odd, there have been 0 reported bad side effects. Like when I say bad side effects, I mean like lethal, like life-threatening. Now, of course, the bad side effects are going to be you have an injector that doesn't understand anatomy and they give you a bad eye droop, and that's hard to fix. You just have to let it wear off. super rare, but we actually have this muscle that actually runs above the orbit. It's not in the surface level, but it's in the orbit. And if you hit that, which a lot of times they hit coming down this way, you can actually cause like this ptosis, this really bad eye drip. And you'll see it, like I'm sure you can see it on TikTok, and you're like, holy crap, I don't want that to happen to me. If you have an injector that's being cautious, that's staying on the surface level, it's not going to happen. But again, that is probably like one of the most extreme. Now, also like infection, if you have an injector who doesn't clean really well, you could have an infection at the site. There are a list of things that could potentially go wrong, but not like, another question I got for long-term effects was like, if I use Botox long-term, is it going to cause, we use the word muscular atrophy? Is it going to cause my muscles to break down and be so weak when I stop using Botox? It's going to be just saggy? And the answer is no. The answer is no. There's no research that has proven that. Actually has proven the opposite, that if you use Botox long-term, when you do stop using it, you'll notice that those muscles are so much younger and stronger, and you don't have those lines because it's, that preventative treatment. Now we do, and it's funny because like we'll do Botox in your jaw for TMJ, and we use that word atrophy. We give you Botox in your jaw because your jaws have been tight for so long, they're just big, and then we want that muscle to atrophy. So then if you think about it, you're like, well, if you're causing muscular atrophy in your jaw, aren't you causing muscular atrophy everywhere else too? And it's like, well, actually, you've overexerted those jowls. So you're actually getting it down to an appropriate place. You're trying to decrease the overusage, not just your basic use. So in a nut, no crazy long-term effects. You can have drooping, asymmetrical smile if you hit the wrong muscle. Everything's about, if you hit the wrong muscle, you can cause an off balance, which will go away. So it would be all a cosmetic major side effect kind of a thing. And again, like, guys, I'm not saying you couldn't cause harm. If you got a needle of Botox and just stuck it right into the eyeball and injected, you're probably going to cause some major crazy things. So like, again, I preface that with like, if you have an injector who's doing what they're supposed to be doing, you may have a bad side effect, like a droopy eye, but you're not going to have a horrible complication. You have to understand the difference between a complication and a side effect. So, okay, what else? Let me scroll through these. Do you personally get injections? What sparked your interest? So I actually had a girlfriend who got certified a few years ago. My girlfriend Jess, shout out. Jess is in the Carmel area. You need a really good injector, let me know. She does like advanced crap, guys. She is amazing. So DM me, I'll give you all her info. But when she first got certified, she's like, you want some Botox? I'm like, sure, like try it on me. I never really sought it out, but I kind of thought it was a fun idea, and I had some crazy wrinkles in my forehead. So I'm like, let's do it, girl. So she did it. I loved it. And I will say, like, I was one of those, it's hard to tell your clients, like, it's okay if something's not quite off. Like, I had one eyebrow that was real, like, pokey. We call it Spock brow. And it was just, this muscle was super strong. I texted her a couple of days later. I'm like, I feel like this one eyebrow is like, whoo, real high. And she just put a little bit more right up there, relaxed it down, and I loved it. Obsessed with it. So if your injector, if you go to see her for the first time and you have something that's a little off, don't freak out. It's not like they did something wrong. You just have to realize sometimes less is better to get what you want. It's better to have to put a little bit more rather than be like, oh crap, I put too much. Anyway, so, because I feel like I have girls that are afraid, like, I'm afraid that my eyebrow is going to be like pokey or something like that. And it's like, just chill. It's okay. You kind of want that a little bit. You kind of want us to start lesser. And also, like, people are very sensitive with cost wise. Like, we could put a bunch of Botox in you and charge you a ton, or we could be conservative, not charge you as much and try to get you the look you want without wasting Botox in your face. So, okay, curious how students get hands-on training, mannequins, fake tissue. I think I've seen like YouTube videos of people doing like on mannequins and fake tissues, but honestly, guys, that's not a good training program. You want to do it with live models. And that was a great thing about med aesthetics is you get live models. Now, you're like, oh, that's kind of scary, but you know, they got it at a very cheap cost, and we had trainers with us the whole time telling us exactly where to go. So essentially it was great. It was good for us, good for them. Oh, this is actually a really good question, and I don't know the answer, but thoughts of exposure to COVID vaccine and decreased efficacy of Botox. I've actually been reading a lot about this, and I think there's going to be a correlation that we can really nail down. But unfortunately, if you got the COVID vaccine, there's nothing you can do about it. It is what it is. If you have noticed that your treatment on Botox maybe didn't work as well, switch over to Dysport and see if that works better for you. So, could you open your own business doing this? I have. Welcome to Wild Aesthetics. I have so as a 1099 CRNA, I actually already have my LLC. I talked to my CPA lawyer, and we're just creating an umbrella, and I'm able to use my LLC for that. But yes, it is a full-fledged business, and I pay taxes on everything. You're welcome, Uncle Sam. Okay, where will you be practicing, at a med spa or independently? Independently. I love the idea of concierge. You know, like you can throw a party with your girlfriends. You can have me over a one-on-one consult. You can have a couple girlfriends real low key. I love the idea of a concierge service. I'm also going to probably eventually getting into like IV therapy, so you can do Botox, IV therapy, all the things. So, okay, let's see. I think that about covers it. I think there was one about cost. What is the cost for certification? That's gonna vary. Like, I got one price, it was like $2,500. One was like $1,300. I think med aesthetics, I don't quote me, but it's around $1,700. You want to pay for a decent service, guys, okay? You don't want to get like the online service where you're doing Zoom calls, and you want to get hands-on live experience. So that costs for them, you know, they're bringing in the Botox, they're doing, so you want to pay a little bit of money for that for sure. But I would say you can find a good certification for under $2,000. Okay. In general, how much does Botox work or cost? So Botox, the cost of it was funny because I had a couple of my good girlfriends. They were like, okay, so how much are we getting our Botox for? And it was funny because I told them how much I actually pay for Botox. And Botox is not cheap. Like, it is really not cheap. I think a bottle, I think I paid like $6.70 for 100 units. So that comes around to be like $7 a unit. So this is not a secret. So when I do Botox parties, I'm charging $10 to $11. I'll probably start doing it like $11 per unit unless you can guarantee a certain amount of people to do it. And then I'll do it for $10 a unit. But like, that's only, my profit margins are not huge for that. So I know in other countries like Canada, you can get your hands on Botox for a lot cheaper. So you can offer it cheaper, or your profit margins are better. But yeah, cost, I would say you can plan to typically pay 12, at least around here, 12 to 13 bucks a unit. Probably the bigger cities, like you're probably upwards of like 15. I've read some places you can pay 20 bucks a unit. That seems a little extreme to me. But 12 to 13 bucks a unit, you can get sales, and then obviously Botox parties. Obviously you can do, like, if you bring in multiple clients, you can get a better rate essentially. So that's kind of the pricing, and it varies. And of course with costs, like Allergan has to up their costs for things, so then we have to charge more on our end. So it all comes full circle. So anyways, I'm so excited. I've already done a couple Botox parties. I've had like one-on-one consults. It's been so much fun. I love the whole aesthetic world. And just remember, guys, everyone's goal is different. Some people love it for just a real natural look. Some people love doing some crazy stuff with it. I think it's really easy because it's a cosmetic world. You can get very judgmental. You can look down on people who do more or less or whatever. I tell people, like, for me, my goals are to age naturally. I color my hair, I do my nails, I do my makeup. Everyone does different things, and that's okay. It's just what you like. So if you're into Botox, great. If you're not into Botox, that's great. I just encourage people to be supportive of one another and kind. And, you know, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. I mean, I'm wearing little pom-poms on my head right now. I'm pretty sure my husband called me like a 12-year-old. But I think they're so cute. But anyway, so all that to say, I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for listening in and chatting. And if you have any other questions, go follow me on my Instagram. I do Edge day-to-day life. I do CRNA life. We're building a house, so I have another account where I'm sharing all that stuff. Give me a subscribe here. It really helps a sister out. Comment below, like this video. Thanks for coming along on my adventure of getting certified for Botox and fillers. Next video, I will be sharing some actual stuff of me injecting. I'm going to do a video of me giving myself injections. And then also I want to give a step-by-step of the whole process of getting certified. And there's a lot of legal back work to it, so I will share that as well. So hope you guys have a great day.